Hello everyone, Bardic Nerd here, and I thought that I would create some instructional guides for Millennia. Um, yes, I've been doing a Let's Play for Millennia. I started creating a second one that I haven't gotten uh, uploaded yet, for a different sort of playthrough. Um, but I thought it might be good to create some guides for Millennia um, on different aspects of it because I've not seen a lot of those out there. And I think it's a cool game. So, um, first, what I am going to do today is talk about the social fabric. It's a very basic overview of social fabric and my thoughts on the different social fabric points and how to get them. And then we're going to, in a few days, start going into guides on the governments, is my plan. So look forward to that in a few days. So first off, social fabric is a system that comes in starting in age 5. The social fabric system unlocks in age 5, and you initially get, as I seem to have experienced, 3 wildcard points to spend as you wish at start, so you can allocate them in any of these various categories. Now, there are a few things, mostly fairly rare, that can give you more wildcard social points, which you can allocate in any way you want, including a culture power. For this culture power, let me just bring that up. It's back, I think, in age 5, Renaissance. So administration, in the default Renaissance age, is different in the variant ages, but in the Renaissance age you can get administration tech, which is tech that gives you the social doctrine culture power. Um, and it is the only thing that tech gives you. And then you get a culture power, which will allow you to use your culture to give you wildcard social fabric points. Now, since that is the only thing that that tech gives you, and there are a lot of other good things to research, and since you are almost always going to have something else that you really want to do with your culture power, this is not very useful in my opinion. Um, you are normally going to want to use your culture powers on a lot of other things. There are so many things that compete for culture powers, some of which are very powerful, and this is, while not weak, not as powerful, and since you have to get a tech specifically for it, it's just not really a thing that I would recommend. And I think really needs to be looked at in terms of game balance. Um, so I consider this to be kind of bad. There are a few other things that can reliably give you wildcard social fabric points, including some buildings that you will find only in variant ages. None of them appear in the regular ages, but I know in the age of discovery, at least, I believe it's the Baroque musician, that whenever you build it, every time you build it, you get a wildcard social fabric point, which is quite nice. Um, and there may be some others in other variant ages. I haven't played through every single variant age. I've not played through most of them, in fact. There's a lot, and I'm going to go through a video on the age breakdown in a few weeks probably. Um, but so completely filling any of the XP tracks here. So up to the maximum amount that you can have based on your government. So if you have a government that can have up to 200, then once you get 200, if you have a government that can get up to 300, once you get to 300, if you have a government that can get up to 400, then once you get up to 400, it's completely based on what the max that you currently have is. You can use that to uh, do a power that will add one social fabric point of the appropriate type to your social fabric. Um, also getting the final ability in any particular national spirit. That's a government, not a national spirit. Here, so here, like getting the legacy ability for any national spirit will give you a social fabric point of the appropriate type. Um, Now, the different types of social, actually, first of all, uh, the normal limit for each track is 10, as you can see. Uh, but if you go for the Transcendence victory, in which is one of the possible victory ages you can go for age 10, um, the Age of Transcendence, which requires you to have 2 social fabric tracks completed to get into it. Um, then then the uh, top level will um, then the where is it? Then the max will change to 15. And then you have to max out a certain number of them. It might be all of them. I can't remember offhand. Does it say here? No, it doesn't. Uh, I can't remember if you have to max out a certain number of them, possibly all of them, and then you win the game. So that is one way to win the game. And there are some of the variant ages have requirements of having amounts of social fabric. There's, I think it might be the Age of Utopia, maybe one of the ages, or no, it's the Age of Environmentalism, actually. The Age of Environmentalism, which is the age 9 variant age, requires you to have all the social fabric tracks at least half filled, so all of them to at least 5. And the Age of Alchemy, which is the age 6, I want to say, maybe 7, but I think age 6. Variant, um, that does require you to have the Insight social fabric track up to 5, as I recall. It's possible there's some other variant ages that have requirements, but I don't think so. So the different types of social fabric. There is the organization one, which requires the government XP up there. Um, this is, in my opinion, the most powerful of the social fabric tracks. Um, per each point of in it reduces the tile expansion cost, so the influence cost that it costs to get a new tile, as you see there, reduces by 5% for each track, for each point here. So when you have 10, that reduces it by 50%. That is pretty significant. That is pretty significant. And getting new tiles for your cities is very important and very useful. So that is probably the most important and most powerful of the social fabric tracks. The others are of lesser use, but can be potent in their own ways. Um, Ingenuity is the one with that uses engineering XP. Um, and it I find is pretty good. Pretty good. Each point reduces the cost to build tile improvements by 5% of the improvement cost or the specialist cost or whatever cost you need to use to build them. Um, so again, up to a maximum of 50% at 10. Um, that's quite nice. That's really nice. Now that's better, generally more useful earlier in the game when you first unlock the social fabric. So if you can get it up a bit when you first unlock the social fabric, that can be quite useful. Later on, you're probably going to have a huge abundance of improvement points, so it's not going to be as big a deal to have the reduction, although the specialist points might still be quite nice because those can be in a bit higher demand than the regular improvement points. Then there is Tenacity, the Warfare XP social fabric. Um, Now, this is a very nice one. Each point put into it reduces the unit upkeep cost by 8%. So once you get this to 10, that's 80% less gold you're spending on unit upkeep. That's big. That's big. Now, it should be noted that by the time you get the social fabric, by the time social fabric unlocks, I don't really ever have a problem with unit upkeep. It's just I don't have a problem with cash flow. I get enough gold that it's just not an issue. That said, uh, the amount currently minus 40% costs on unit upkeep, and that's currently saving me over 500 gold a turn. So late game, if you were to get this all the way to 10, you might be saving 1,000 gold a turn, which is a lot of gold. That's a lot of gold. That's quite a lot. So um, it's pretty, it's pretty significant. The usefulness of having that is not always huge, but it's a significant reduction. It's a significant reduction in a cost that is only a mildly problematic cost. So, it gives you a significant boost in something that is a nice to have thing, basically. Um, which is kind of the opposite of ingenuity. Which we'll get, not ingenuity, insight, which we'll get to in a moment. Uh, there's the community, um, one, which is the art XP. Um, every point in it reduces your unrest in every city by 5. Um, that's not bad. That's not a bad bonus. Um, it you know, I rarely have problems with unrest in the later game because there's plenty of ways to reduce unrest. Um, it's usually, in my experience, fine. But certainly the bonus helps. Certainly it's a useful bonus to have. And could occasionally be important. If you have a spike of unrest for some reason, then it could definitely be important. So it's probably rare that it's going to be important. Usually it's just going to be one of those, okay, it's sometimes helpful, but when it is helpful, it's quite helpful. So we've got insight, which I mentioned. Um, well, what I will say for it is that it is consistently useful. It is consistently useful because it gives you, um, each point in it reduces the cost of research by the cost of each technology in research points by 1%. And that is, research is one of the most important things in the game. Uh, one of the absolute most important things in the game. So it's giving you a bonus to what is arguably the most important thing in the game. Not necessarily the most important thing in the game, but arguably the most important thing in the game. Certainly, research is up there, near the top. So it's giving you a bonus to an amazingly important thing, but it's giving you a very tiny bonus. It's giving you 1% bonus per tech, and that's just, well, I kind of notice it a little, maybe kinda vaguely. Not really. I hardly notice it. Um, you're almost not at all gonna notice any individual point of insight. Um, Over the course of the game, you'll get you'll research text faster by a handful of turns over the course of all the ages. Like each point in it might reduce the time it takes you to go through one age by like 1 turn. It's not a big deal, but it's nice to have. It's nice to have because it is consistently useful. It's just a very small effect. And once in a while, the tiny extra bonus does make all the difference in the world, because once in a while, that extra turn or two is vital in just reaching a new age first. And when you have that, then you'll be really glad. But the rest of the time, you're not going to notice it. But it's, good to have. It's certainly, I won't turn up my nose at it, certainly. Uh, which is not what can be said for tolerance. Tolerance, I will totally turn up my nose at. Um, I will put tolerance in when I have, it is diplomacy XP, and when I have absolutely nothing else useful to do with a full diplomacy um, meter, and it doesn't look like I'm going to have anything useful to do with the diplomacy XP for like 2 turns or so. I will grudgingly use the ability to get a tolerance point, but tolerance is completely useless. Each point in it gives you 8 gold per turn. Gold is not all that useful, and 8 gold is a tiny, tiny amount. As you can see, uh, admittedly near the end of the game, I am making 1400 plus gold turn. 8 gold, I don't notice that. I don't notice that, and it's not an important uh thing, so it's just like tolerance is basically useless. It's effectively useless uh unless you need it to win the game or something, or get into a variant age. Just completely ignore tolerance. Um, unfortunately, that's, there's a few parts of the game that are not correctly balanced, and that is unfortunately one of them. But um, on the whole, the social fabric system is pretty interesting. Um, so, and like, sure, you'll notice the money a bit more earlier in the game, but by the time social fabric unlocks, 8 gold is going to be a tiny percentage of what you are making a turn. It's going to be like uh, you'll be making, you'll likely have a positive income of at least 100 gold a turn uh, by the time social fabric unlocks. So, and probably the amount of money you save by getting a point of tenacity uh, is even going to be at that point bigger. Obviously, right now, um, the amount of money I save by getting a point of tenacity is more than 10 times the amount I would get by getting a point of tolerance. So that gives you a idea of the relative usefulness and how not balanced this is. Um, but that is all for the social fabric system. I think it's an interesting system. Uh, it's a nice way to get different bonuses to stuff based on what you are producing and what your strengths are. Um, except for organization, um, they are mostly not important bonuses. Organization is actually an important bonus. The other bonuses are mostly not important. Um, but it's certainly nice and adds a little bit to the game. So that's the social fabric system. I hope you have learned something from this and enjoyed. And if you did, I hope you like and subscribe. And feel free to leave a comment on anything you learned or think that would be useful for me to know. Or if there's something you particularly want to see in the future. Thank you and take care.